I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic, who shall speak on behalf of the Arab group.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to deliver the statement on behalf of the Arab group. At the outset, allow me, Mr. President, to congratulate you on assuming the presidency of the 79th session of the General Assembly. We wish you all success in this noble mission. I also thank you for responding to the request submitted by the Arab group, the Islamic group, and the non-alignment movement to resume the 10th emergency special session. Pursuant to the advisory opinion issued by the ICJ on the 19th of July 2024 on the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, and the illegal presence of Israel in the occupied territories. This advisory opinion confirmed that Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful, and that Israel is under obligation to bring to an end its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory as rapidly as possible, and to cease immediately all new settlement activities, to dismantle the settlements, and to evacuate all settlers from the occupied Palestinian territory. The advisory opinion also states that Israel has the obligation to make reparation for the damage caused to all natural or legal persons concerned, and that all states and international organizations are under the obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, and not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the situation created by the continued presence of Israel. The Arab group welcomes this advisory opinion, which was issued upon the request of the General Assembly. We emphasized the need to follow up on this advisory opinion and to implement it in line with the advisory opinion of the ICJ in its 9th operative clause, which states that the United Nations, and especially the General Assembly and the Security Council, should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring to an end as rapidly as possible the unlawful presence of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. Mr. President, pursuant to the advisory opinion of the ICJ, the delegation of the State of Palestine, with the support of dozens of member states, tabled draft resolution before you today as contained in this document. On this opportunity, we would like to congratulate the State of Palestine for starting to enjoy the rights and additional privileges defined by the General Assembly starting this 79th session. As a result, the Palestinian delegation was able today to table the historic draft resolution. The Arab group looks forward to the day the State of Palestine will be granted full membership in the United Nations as soon as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, almost a year after the onset of the wanton Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, this genocidal war waged by the Israeli occupation forces has led to the killing, injuring, and disappearance of more than 145,000 Palestinian civilians. In addition to displacing 2 million Palestinians and to the systematic destruction of cities, villages, Palestinian camps, and Palestinian infrastructure, to burning and destroying homes, farms, and property. Furthermore, Israel, the occupying power, and the settler gangs have expanded the scope of their crimes to include the West Bank. They have killed hundreds of Palestinian citizens, and they have gravely injured many more. The Arab group strongly condemns the crimes perpetrated by the Israeli occupation against the Palestinian people. We call for their immediate unconditional ending. We also condemn the hostile policies and measures adopted by Israel, the occupying power, to prevent the independence of the state of Palestine. We condemn their plans to annex the occupied West Bank and to expand the colonizing settlements and the other Palestinian territories and the occupied Syrian Golan. The Arab group reiterates its condemnation of the ongoing Israeli aggression for more than 11 months against brotherly Lebanon. We condemn the deliberate Israeli bombardments of civilian areas, which led to the killing of more than 175 civilians, most of whom are women and children, in addition to several journalists and relief workers. The group reiterates its condemnation of the repeated Israeli aggressions against the Syrian territories and the targeting by the Israeli occupation forces of civilians, of residential neighborhoods, and of the infrastructure. The group reaffirms its solidarity with Syria and Lebanon and calls for a cessation of the hostile Israeli actions immediately to avoid further escalation threatening regional and international peace and security. Mr. President, the General Assembly has resumed its 10th emergency special session on 3 occasions throughout the past 11 months. It has adopted 3 important resolutions calling for an immediate ceasefire and to guarantee the delivery of humanitarian assistance, in addition to granting additional privileges to Palestine. The members of the General Assembly are invited today again to show their support to the Palestinian people and its prolonged struggle to end the Israeli occupation of their land and to exercise their inalienable right to self-determination, to the establishment of their sovereign independent state with Jerusalem as its capital, and to be granted full membership in the United Nations. Solidarity with the Palestinian people and their legitimate rights means that we should support the draft resolution tabled before this session and vote in its favor. This is the least we can do to contribute to lifting the prolonged historic injustice that befell the Palestinian people. Mr. President, allow me to deliver the following remarks in my national capacity. My delegation associates itself with the statement of the Arab Group and the statement delivered by the Permanent Representative of Uganda on behalf of NAM. We congratulate you once again for presiding over this session, and we affirm that my delegation is ready to provide all support for the success of your endeavors. We also thank you for swiftly responding to our request to convene this emergency session. Mr. President, the Syrian Arab Republic reiterates its strong condemnation of the ongoing barbaric Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. This aggression represents a continuation of the massacres, acts of aggression, and terrorism perpetrated by the Israeli occupation throughout decades to perpetuate its occupation of Arab territories and in an attempt to undermine the chances of establishing a Palestinian state. Syria reaffirms its full support to the brotherly Palestinian people in facing the Israeli killing machinery and in their struggle to end occupation and to enjoy their inalienable established rights, including their right to establish an independent state with Jerusalem as a capital and to be granted full membership in the United Nations. My country welcomes the advisory opinion of the ICJ and calls for its implementation to end the Israeli occupation. Syria reaffirms that the Israeli occupation was and still is the main cause of the instability in our region. Syria calls upon the United Nations to act immediately to implement its relevant resolutions and to end occupation, to end the policies of aggression, of expansion, of settlement, and of genocide, in addition to the war crimes, crimes against humanity perpetrated by the occupying powers. The occupying powers wouldn't have persisted in these practices if it weren't for the unlimited support provided to it by the US administration and some of their allies. Syria calls upon the United Nations to end the repeated Israeli aggressions against its territories, including the most recent assault against rural Hama province and Majd al-Shams in Arab Syrian occupied Golan. We call for holding the occupying powers accountable for their practices and to ensure that they are not repeated in order to avoid dragging the region towards more escalation, threatening regional and international peace and security. My country reaffirms its established right to defend its territorial sovereignty and to recover the occupied Syrian Golan using all the means provided by international law. We also condemn the ongoing Israeli aggression against Lebanon. We reiterate our strong solidarity with the Lebanese people and call for an immediate, unconditional cessation of such an aggression. Thank you, President.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic